August 6, 1945. The city of Hiroshima is quiet, unaware of the storm about to be unleashed from the sky above. A single bomber plane cuts through the clouds. It carries a weapon the world has never seen. At 8:15 a.m., that weapon is released, and in less than a minute, the world changes forever. A blinding white light, a sudden inferno, a mushroom cloud rising toward the heavens. Over 70,000 lives erased in a flash. Tens of thousands more would suffer for years. The weapon was called Little Boy. The operation was called the Manhattan Project, and it resulted from the most secret, most expensive scientific endeavor in human history. But this story does not begin with an explosion. It begins with a letter. In 1939, as World War II brewed in Europe, a Hungarian physicist named Leo Szilard approached Albert Einstein with a terrifying idea. The Nazis might be trying to build an atomic bomb. Together, they drafted a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. In it, they warned of a new kind of weapon, one more powerful than anything known to man, a bomb based on the splitting of the atom. The letter would land on Roosevelt's desk in October of that year. It was short, but it set in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the destiny of nations. By 1942, the United States launched a top-secret program to explore nuclear fission and weaponize it before the Nazis could. It was called the Manhattan Project, not because it took place in New York, but because the first administrative offices were based there. What followed was a massive, coordinated effort across the country. Secret cities were built. Entire communities sprang up overnight. Los Alamos, New Mexico; Oak Ridge, Tennessee; Hanford, Washington. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, and workers, more than 130,000 people in total, were sworn to secrecy. Very few of them knew what they were building. At the heart of it all was a man, Robert Oppenheimer. A brilliant theoretical physicist, a poet, a philosopher, and a man burdened by his own conscience. He was appointed scientific director of the project and tasked with an impossible goal: to design and build a bomb that could end the war. Under Oppenheimer's leadership, the best minds of the century were assembled. Enrico Fermi, who had built the first nuclear reactor; Niels Bohr, who had fled occupied Europe; Edward Teller, Richard Feynman, and many others. It was a gathering of geniuses, working in complete isolation, racing against time and the shadow of Hitler. The science was daunting. At its core was a terrifying discovery. When a heavy atom like uranium or plutonium is split, it releases an enormous amount of energy. If enough of these atoms could be split in a chain reaction, the result would be an explosion of unprecedented force. But how much material was needed? What shape would the bomb be? How would it detonate? How do you contain and control the uncontrollable? One path led to uranium, the isotope U-235, rare and difficult to extract. Another led to plutonium, a newly discovered element produced in nuclear reactors. Massive facilities were built to enrich uranium and produce plutonium. Thousands of workers operated machinery they didn't understand, processing radioactive materials under intense secrecy. It was industrial science on a scale never seen before. As the war in Europe neared its end in 1945, the Manhattan Project was ready to test its creation. On July 16th, deep in the deserts of New Mexico, scientists gathered for what they called Trinity, the first detonation of a nuclear bomb. In the pre-dawn silence, a countdown began. At 5:29 a.m., the bomb exploded. The light was brighter than the sun. The shockwave rattled windows over 100 miles away. The ground turned to glass. The bomb had worked. Oppenheimer, watching from a safe distance, later recalled words from the Bhagavad Gita: "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Just 3 weeks later, the world would see what that meant. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped the uranium bomb on Hiroshima. 3 days later, a second bomb, this time plutonium-based, was dropped on Nagasaki. The destruction was absolute. By the end of the year, over 200,000 people had died. Japan surrendered soon after. World War II was over. But a darker chapter was just beginning. The Manhattan Project had succeeded. But at what cost? Its success ushered in the nuclear age. In the years that followed, the Soviet Union would develop its own bomb. The Cold War would descend. Nations would build arsenals large enough to destroy the planet many times over. The principle of mutually assured destruction would become the only thing preventing annihilation. Fear became the foundation of peace. And yet, the legacy of the Manhattan Project is more than just bombs. It gave rise to nuclear power, to scientific collaboration on an unprecedented scale. It forced humanity to confront its own capacity for destruction. It raised questions that still echo today. Should we build weapons that can end civilization? Can science be neutral when its consequences are so deadly? And once a discovery is made, can it ever be undone? The Manhattan Project began in fear. It ended in fire. It revealed the brilliance and the danger of human ingenuity. And it changed not just the course of a war, but the course of history itself. The bomb did more than end World War II. It ended the illusion that humanity was still bound by the limits of the past. And it left us with a haunting truth: that in seeking to win a war, we may have opened the door to our own end.